I'm Shelley Zalis, the CEO of the Female Quotient, otherwise known as Chief Troublemaker. I am very much not a typical profile as a CEO. You would call me very multidimensional. My career has been a very zigzaggedy one, definitely not in a textbook. And I think I have pretty much made up everything I've ever done and created every job, every title, every description, and my profile evolves as I go, including my career. So every chapter, which is probably why I've never written a book, every page keeps getting written every single day. So that is why my book never has an end or a beginning, because it is getting written every day. As I wake up, I come up with a new idea and bring it to life as the day goes. I love the name Fempire because it could be so many things. For me, I think I think about this expression, success, and what does success mean to you? Because Fempire seems like it's controlling this entire empire of the world. And what is an empire? And to me, an empire is one who's happy with what she has. And I think that I am the queen of my empire because I love who I am. I love what I have, and there's no money in the world that could buy happiness. Happiness is one who's truly happy with what she has, and I have, thank God, the most beautiful family in the whole wide world, and God has given me the greatest gifts in life, and that to me is a Fempire, being surrounded by beauty and love and happiness. And for me, my whole life is giving back with generosity, what the gifts that I have, and that's a Fempire to me. And I have gone from creating the business of market research. I pioneered online research. So if anyone's ever taken a survey on the internet, sorry, not sorry, but I'm the mother of that invention. And now I'm in the business of equality, helping women. I'm all over the world, actually women in over 100 countries, to help close the gender gap. And that is what I am doing, because I was an only and lonely woman in a boys club world. And that to me is a Fempire. It's doing what you love. When you love what you do, it's called passion. When you don't, it's called stress. And every day you have one life to live. You should live it as if it's your last. And wake up every day feeling joyful and making choices, because that's what life is all about. That's a Fempire to me. So when I started my first company, it was called OTX, Online Testing Exchange, and it was an online research company. And I sold that company to a large global research company, actually operating in 83 countries. It was called Ipsos, and I was running global innovation in 83 countries, so traveling quite a bit around the world. I'm actually a 3 million miler on pretty much every airline. I actually know when flight attendants get their hair cut. And then I decided it was time to give back with generosity, what I wish I had, rising the ranks, and went from the business of market research to the business of equality, and started a company called the Female Quotient. The name, the Female Quotient, came from, first came IQ, the intelligence quotient, then came EQ, the emotional quotient, then came FQ, the female quotient. When you add more women to any equation, there's a return on equality. And it was just so obvious to me that it was time to really change the equation and close the gap for women in the workplace. And when you think about why is it that only less than 17% of women get to the C-suite? Like, that just absolutely makes no sense, that women fall out in middle management. Or the soft powers, collaboration, empathy, compassion, passion, all of these amazing soft skills are the ones that are invisible and not recognized in the C-suite. And for us, we actually changed the name soft skills to essential skills, critical skills, because they are the most valuable skills, in my opinion, to leadership today. It's about competence and warmth that need to be recognized and reinforced and rewarded. Or why are women not paid the same as men? I just don't really understand that. Why we are so undervalued or underrepresented across every category. And, this to me became legacy, something that I needed to not talk about, but actually create the action steps forward, the solutions for change. Not in a defensive, negative way, but in a positive, proactive way. And the only way this would happen is if we created the solutions for change and pushed it forward. It was time for a new equality handbook. And that is why I created the Female Quotient. And it started at an industry conference at CES, Consumer Electronics Show, 10 years ago, when I decided I was going to invite 5 women to walk the floor of a technology conference together with me. 150,000 people going, less than 3% were women. And I was so tired of being an only and lonely at a conference surrounded by an ocean of men, and being one of those few women going to these conferences by myself. So I invited 5 women to walk the floor, and I said, if you know other women, please invite them to join us. And 24 hours later, 50 women showed up. And 2 remarkable things happened. One, I was surrounded by a pack of women just like me, and we walked the trade floor together. And all of these men, their heads turned, like, where the heck did all of you women come from? And it's when I coined the phrase, power the pack. A woman alone has power. Collectively, we have impact. And it was just this whoosh moment, like you walk this floor, and it was such a overwhelmingly powerful shiver moment. And I felt so bold and brave and strong and excited. And that was a moment I will never forget. And the second thing that happened was I was surrounded by women just like me. We talked about imposter syndrome, work-life balance, family, in this way that I never expressed myself before. We let our hair down, and we were actually women, not trying to be men. Actually, Sarah Jessica Parker, in one of her films, has a quote that says, trying to be a man is a waste of a woman. Think about that. Wow, what a great saying. And it's so true. I am 61 years old. I started in the workplace at the age of 21, 40 years ago. I don't know who's listening, but that was a really long time ago. We used to wear these navy blue suits, whether they were pantsuits or they were little skirt suits or whatever, buttoned up, and I'd wear my hair in a pony, and you would try to look and act like a man. Why? Like, who told you had to do that? But that was status quo. That was what you saw, and that's how you acted. Actually, I'm going to tell you a story, because this is a crazy story. I remember rising the ranks as a young executive. I was fortunate to be invited to this meeting, to go to this agency meeting, and to meet this senior executive that was a woman, Penelope Queen. And I thought, wow, what an honor. I'm this young rising star, and I'm the one that's invited to go meet this very powerful woman in this position, but she was an only and lonely. So I dressed in this suit, buttoned up to here. My hair was in a ponytail. I didn't wear makeup because I didn't want to, look threatening in any way. And I show up to this lunch meeting, and I said, I'm here to see Penelope Queen. And they said, oh, right this way, madame. So I walked to this meeting, and there's this woman with brown cascading hair, and she was wearing this purple leather short skirt and a tight little jacket, and she looked feminine. And I was shocked, and I'm like, wow, what is this all about? And it was this moment where I said, maybe this is okay. And it was that moment I remember releasing my hair from my ponytail, shaking it out, saying, I can do that too. And I thought to myself, well, who told me I had to act like a man and wear my hair in this pony and dress like a man? Perception is not always reality. And I realized there is no textbook or handbook that says I have to dress like a man, I have to act like a man. It was that I thought that that's because that's all I saw. And that was what I was supposed to do. And I used to stay late every night at work because everyone ahead of me used to do that. And it was only when that moment I said, well, I'm going to leave at 5 o'clock. And I am going to go pick up my kids. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And I broke a rule. I thought it was a rule, but you know what? Was it a rule? And that's when I took on the name Chief Troublemaker. Actually, I'm wearing my shirt. It says Chief Troublemaker. And that was the moment I decided I'm going to break the rules that make no sense and create the new ones. Because who made the rules? God didn't make those rules. Where did those rules come from? And that was the moment of truth. Sometimes you got to break the rules that make no sense and create the new ones. And that was that moment of truth where I said, you know what? I am surrounded by women just like me. We need to break the rules that make no sense and create the new ones. And that was the moment the Girls Lounge was born. And, you know, if there's a boys club, now there's a girls lounge. The opposite of boy is girl. The opposite of club is lounge. And what was interesting about the girls lounge was a lot of women didn't like the name girl. They're like, we're not a girl, we're women. And I said, have you ever heard of a man object to being a boy in the boys club? Why are we creating our own stereotypes? 10 years ago, the Girls Lounge was born, and it became a safe space for women at conferences to spend time together, for women to support other women. Today, over 1 million women across 100 countries support one another. And we let our hair down, and we don't apologize for being a woman and bringing our feminine strengths to the table and making room for one another at the table, and not sticking our heels in each other's heads and pushing each other down. But you know what we do? We lift each other up. When women support one another and we help each other rise, we all shine like celestial planets, like stars in the sky. That is what happens when women support other women. And once women started supporting other women and we created a space designed by women for everyone, then after 5 years, I evolved the Girls Lounge and I called it the Equality Lounge, the place for conscious leaders. I don't care what your gender, race, age, religion, intersectionality, accessibility, everyone was welcome, but it was designed inclusively for everyone. That was the Equality Lounge, which is what it is today, and is underneath the umbrella, the female quotient, changing the equation, closing the gap. I have so many challenges, but I love challenges, because when you have challenges, it means you're doing things that have never been done before. And everything I've ever done is not in a textbook. And when I first pioneered online research, the only people that were online were wealthy old men with broadband connections. So imagine pioneering research, migrating research from offline, doing research with telephone surveys or in malls, central locations, to the internet when really no one was online but wealthy old men with broadband connections. Actually, so if you've ever taken a survey on the internet, sorry, not sorry, but I'm the mother of that invention. And we were using 14.4 modems. So, you know, ba-boom, 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 very small, very slow internet connection. And everyone told me it's not possible, it's not the right time. But when is the right time? The right time is when you decide to make it the right time. But when you're the first, you're going to be the one making all the mistakes because there is no textbook. And the crazy part was when you need to raise money, and says, well, what's the business plan? Well, business plan, in those days, you need a SWOT analysis. You need the strengths and the weaknesses, and there is no competitive set. I have no competitors. There's no category. We need to know how much money you're going to make. Well, I'm building something that doesn't exist. So I remember going to investors, and we know the drill when women are trying to raise money. I mean, what you can't do and what you're not going to do. And of course, that's where imposter syndrome comes in. And that's a whole other conversation. And I'm like, but what do you want me to compare it to? I can compare it to market research companies that are all making billions of dollars because there's a whole industry around that. But there is no competitor to online research. Doesn't exist. I said, so I'm happy to make it up, but I'm just letting you know in full transparency, I'm making up the numbers. So I'll give you a business plan, but all the numbers will be made up. So I'm just letting you know. Full disclosure, I will make it up. So I made up the numbers. And of course, as a competitive to myself person, not to others, because I'm quite collaborative, I had to beat my own numbers that I made up, which of course I built a very successful research company, online research company. But the crazy part was, I always say you need to be the first, the second, and the third. The first is always the pioneer. And the first is the innovator. You're gonna make all the mistakes, and you're gonna, usually you fail. The second is the copycat, because they come in and they copy everything that you've done, but they don't really know what's under the hood. They don't know why you did the things that you did, or why you made the mistakes that you made and how you tweaked it. And the third is always the sweeper. They ride in on the white horse, and there's already now an ecosystem, and they win. And so I always said to myself, I need to be the first, the second, and the third, because there is no one that's going to beat me at my own game. And so I've had so many challenges, but I've also had all the wins. My family's my greatest support system. My girlfriends have been my greatest support system. And I have to say now, the FQ community, it's really, I never had girlfriends in business. Now I have 1 million, and, all over the world. And I swear it's really, even last night we just had an event here for the first time in London. And I really believe that when you create a community of kindness, it's what I said last night at the event. You get a hug, a hello, and a yes, and then they'll say, what can I do for you? And to me, that's what makes the world go around. And it's what this is truly all about. It's how we grow. It's how we create change. It's how we evolve, and how we make the world a better place. I don't believe in the word balance. There's no such thing as balance. Life is not so neat. It's kind of messy. There's no such thing as 50-50. I think it's, work-life integration. You have one life with 5 dimensions. Your career, your family, your community, your friends, and the 5th dimension we always forget about or just decide to neglect, which is ourselves. And at every stage of life, it's not like even slices of a pie. You gotta pick and choose how you're gonna prioritize. And so, I think it's life stage accommodation. You've got to decide how you're gonna mix and match. And so, when my children were growing up, I would combine some pieces, or sometimes you had to sacrifice some. So I would put my girlfriends and myself together, like exercise with my girlfriends. So I might not have done as much of the exercise, and we might have done a little more chatting during exercise, but it made my day. Or I'd have breakfast with my girlfriends to combine some elements, But my kids, my family always knew they came first, even in my business life. So I would take my diary. We used to have filofaxes at the time. We did not have little phones and put everything in it, but I would, in ink, always, every day, put my kids' schedules in first of priority, and then build my work schedule around it. Even when I was junior in my company, my kids would always be first. And I would say to my kids, I had a no regret policy. I never wanted to look back and say, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And so I would say to my kids, I will never miss a moment that matters to you. So tell me what is important and I will be there. And I can guarantee you with 1,000% certainty, and I am a researcher, that no one at your work will ever remember a meeting that you missed or a business trip that you didn't take. But the people in your life that are important to you will always remember the things that you were there that were important to them. And so don't miss the important things in your life that matter. And I remember that, when I was selling my company, when I was selling OTX to Ipsos, it was the week of the sale, the week of the sale. And the company, Ipsos, was in Paris. I had to be in Paris to sell my company. And it was kind of mandatory. Yet it was the same week that my youngest son, who's now 26 years old, had to be in Czechoslovakia to play his ice hockey game. And it was really important to him that I be in Czechoslovakia. And I was not going to miss that. And so I commuted from Czechoslovakia to Paris by day. And at night, when his games were playing, I was in that stand at night. I was the loudest parent screaming so my kid would know that I was there. And I didn't miss that moment. And I still sold my company. And there's always a solution. You just have to find it. And so, as a mom, as a partner, as a business executive, as a CEO, as a girlfriend, as a daughter, as a sister, as a community leader, you can do it all. You just do it all your way. No apologies. I don't know how to bake cupcakes. I can't get a cake out of a pan. And that's okay. You got to give yourself a break. And sometimes you can't do all those 5 dimensions at the same time. And you might not do them all perfect. That's the other thing. There's no such thing as perfection. Quality lounges, which are pop-up spaces at industry conferences. Pre-COVID, we were doing about 70 pop-up lounges across every industry, from marketing, media, advertising, research, technology, construction, cybersecurity, world leaders, World Economic Forum, sports. And then COVID hit. We went virtual, and we did over 800 conversations virtually, which grew our community exponentially and actually democratized the system too. I never realized that when we were doing them physically at conferences, it was only our content and our conversations were only for those that were at the conference. The beauty of going virtual was we were able to open up our conversations to people, and especially women all over the world. And all of a sudden we realized that our content and our conversations were reaching women in over 100 countries. And I didn't realize that our FQ brand was so important to women everywhere. And this conversation was necessary and needed. Women wanted to connect all over the world. And so that was really remarkable. So our second pillar now is FQ Media, and we create content and conversation for women all over the world. So that, we're now, second pillar is FQ Media. And then our third is FQ Services, where we are working with Fortune 500 C-suite leaders to create solutions for change, to close the gender gap in the workplace. And we just launched something at the World Economic Forum in 2023 in our lounge called The Flipping Point. A report came out from the World Economic Forum that says it'll take another 132 years. 132 years to close the gender gap. Why? Why 132 years to close the gender gap? We created the internet in 25 years. Something that is impossible to do. Like connecting people all over the world in 25 years. We sent people to the moon in 10 years. And we created a vaccine to a deadly problem in 1 year. Why can't we figure out how to pay Sally the same as Peter? We have the data. That's going to take 132 years? It's going to take 132 years to figure out how to put women in leadership positions? Really? it's going to take 132 years to figure out how to have more diversity in the workplace? Really? I don't think so. So we've challenged the world to say we can do that in 5. Gender equality is a choice. That's a mindset gap. It doesn't require rewiring anything except your mind. It's a conscious choice. It just requires conscious leadership. So we are working with, we just asked for 10 conscious Fortune 500 leaders with a moonshot mindset to raise their hand and say, I want to leave a legacy of change in my workplace during my tenure. Think about it. If you have boys and girls, daughters, sons, what do you want for them when they get to the workplace? An unequal world or equal opportunity? A safe, secure work environment where they can thrive? What do you want for them? It's an easy question. What choice do you want to make? So that's what we are doing today. And then we're also creating the largest global female expert network to make the invisible visible and to change the equation and close the gap. So we created something called the algorithm for equality. We are going to flood the internet and we are going to change the algorithm because AI cannot be biased. And it will be if we don't start sharing stories of remarkable women in every equation. So we've got a lot of work to do, but it's actually a great challenge, great opportunity, and these incredible, remarkable women are all over the world, so we're just going to tell their stories. I'm one of the co-founders of See Her. If you could see her, you could be her. And I started this movement about 6 years ago, brought it to the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, and it's all about the accurate and realistic portrayal of girls and women in media and entertainment. And we created a GEM score, gender equality measure, and as a researcher, it is so important to measure what you treasure. And so we have all the global advertisers adding GEM to their research measurement protocol. And now it is a measurement standard. And we are able to hold ourselves accountable for our advertising. And it is just so incredibly important. And all advertisers now add it to their copy testing, and we're pretty excited. And it really is making a big difference that we can realistically hold ourselves accountable for all of the media and entertainment that we put out there. You know, when you think about funding, and we see that less than 2% of VC funding goes to women and less than 1% goes to women of color, it is absolutely unacceptable. And you know, why does this happen? And when you break it down, it's because 95.5% of check writers are men. So we need more diversity in check writing, number one. So, you know, research matters a lot. And actually, we also know that female founders are more successful than male founders. So what's the problem here? You know, that is just unacceptable. So, you know, research is important in everything we do, but I actually think real life experience is more important. But knowing what you're dealing with matters. Data always is helpful. I have to say, most importantly, imposter syndrome is what holds back so many women. So I want to start with that. Men and women have imposter syndrome, that voice in your head that says you're not good enough, you're not knowledgeable enough. And if a job requires you having 10 things that you need to know, if a guy can do 6 out of 10, they're like, yep, I got this. If a woman thinks she can't do all of them, she says, I'm not qualified. I have to just tell you, you got to shut that voice up in your head and just own it and fake it till you make it. But most importantly, imposter syndrome are 2 words you just got to eliminate from your vocabulary, because it doesn't exist. So wipe it out and use the research. Go find the research that says you women outperform men every single time. Look at that research. Don't listen to your head. Go find all that data that supports the fact that you have it. You got it. Use it, take it, run with it, and don't listen to anyone else that tells you that your presentations aren't good enough, that you're not qualified, that you're distracted, that all that is nonsense. And look at the actual data. It will give you the facts, and go forward with confidence and own it and deliver it, and you got this. Believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And Oscar Wilde says, be yourself because everyone else is taken.